welcome back to my channel. If you are new here and like the video, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button for more content. Thank you for watching. There is not much of an intro today. I know you are all eager to know what happens next. I have an important announcement in the outro, so be sure to stick around for that. Keiji! He grumbles at the loud sound, making the taller shoot a quick, much quieter apology. His deep, ocean blue eyes open through his eyelids, taking in the blurry outline of the two Nekama players in front of him. Bokuto was nowhere in sight, since he was also getting help from professionals. Yet, as he stared at the raven and the blonde, he couldn't help but feel lost. Like there was something he should know or recognize, but it all came to a blank. He knew nothing. Who are you? Koda paused, for once his own mind was blank before questions started to pour in. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't form any of them into a sentence. Or even a single word. You must be a little out of it, love. He reached to caress his cheek, but stopped when the setter flinched back. With his own wide eyes, he stared into those usually calm and collected blue orbs, but now they were wide in fear. For all he knew, Akashi was in pain, alone, afraid. What? Finally, mustering some strength, he said those words. What is your relationship to this boy? She asked, applying some gauze on his head so that they could make it to the hospital without much more blood loss. He's our boyfriend. The nurse looked back at the one she was treating, who had a confused expression across his face. Sir? Do you know these boys? He looked at the two, who were staring with a desperate look of longing. It made the guilt in the pit of his stomach grow immensely. No. An immediate expression of hurt and worry replaced their faces. This caused the setter to squeeze his lips tightly. The nurse frowned. Tell me, what is your name? She flashed a bright light into his eyes, causing his pupils to dilate. Good. Akashi Keiji. How old are you? He paused. How old was he? 14? He guessed. In truth, he had no clue. This caused the blonde setter next to him to gasp and cover his mouth. You mean... He paused. Keiji, you're 17. That means you don't remember us at all? That's 3 years of memory. The nurse clicked his tongue to the roof of her mouth, cutting the bandage to his head. She motioned for a stretcher over to where Akashi was taken. Wait, what's going on? The nurse sighed. It looks to be mild head trauma, a temporary form of amnesia. I could be wrong though, it could be much more severe than I think. Then again, we won't know for sure until we get him in for CT scans. Koda cursed while Kema brought his hands to his mouth, nodding at his nails. Don't worry, he is in good hands. Koda nodded, knowing that she was right, desperately wanting to believe so. What about Bokuto? The attacker? If it were less tense, the captain might have laughed at that, but not until he knew for sure that both of his lovers were okay. No, the other victim. He cringed, hating the word victim like it were some disease. It was like referring to Kotaro as a thing rather than who he was. That, and it made the whole situation become more reality. Her eyes lit up in understanding to who he's referring to. Ah, right. He sure is a lucky one. This did make him laugh. No kidding. So, how is he? She grabbed a clipboard, examining the quick diagnosis sheets. Well, it's just as your partner. We won't know for sure the extent of his injuries until we get a radiograph done. But what we can tell for now is he has a shoulder subluxation, a possible fractured rib, and major bruising. A shoulder what now? Kudasai. Partial dislocation. The nurse smiled. You know your stuff. Well, my mom is a nurse, so I would hope so after all the stories she told me. He chuckled, recalling how disturbed he was whenever she shared the more TMI stories. Alright boys, I'm sure the police has some questioning for you. But after that, your partner should be okay to see. Thank you. He bowed, showing his respect and gratitude for helping his boyfriends. From there, he took the smeller's hand, who was still slightly trembling, before turning to the cops. Well, this is going to be fun. After many hours of interrogation, police officials got all the information they needed, plus more. By the time they made it to the hospital, Bokuto was already awake and itching to leave. And honestly, no one could blame him. He had a dark navy blue sling over his left shoulder after deeming it necessary with his shoulder injury. While his ribs weren't fractured, he did have 2 cracked ribs, meaning he was on bed rest. Doctor's orders. He didn't like that too much. While he was additionally diagnosed with muscle contusion, which means the muscles from his shoulder to the back was painted in dark colors with heavy bruising. That alone would take weeks to heal. Other than that, he was completely fine, although he's still a little pissed he didn't get a good punch on the guy. All 3 sat in the room, still waiting on something about Akashi. Kema anxiously fidgeted in his seat. Are you okay? He nodded, even though the 2 captains could see through it. I'm going to the bathroom. Before he could hear a response, he already walked out, locking the bathroom door behind him. He twisted his torso, hissing in pain. The blonde lifted his shirt, revealing purple bruising of his own, with crimson cuts decorating his ribs. That must have been whenever he was hiding in the dumpster. Ah! He put pressure on one of them, immediately regretting it when one of the scabs ripped open, letting more of the warm liquid spill over. He startled, hearing a knock on the door. Kenma? He quickly pulled his shirt down and flushed the toilet to make it appear he was just finishing using it. Yeah? What are you doing up? Aren't you supposed to be resting? Bokuto pouted. I wanted to stretch my legs. Plus Kodo left because they have news on Keiji. His eyes lit up. They do? Bokuto smiled, obviously wanting to jump for joy, but the pain in his back prevented him. Instead, he aggressively shook his head, already dragging the sitter back towards the room. Akashi clung to the paper-thin hospital sheets, feeling uncomfortable under the iron gaze from before. The same raven man from before was in his room, not breaking eye contact with him. Apparently, they were well acquainted, and he somehow had low-grade amnesia inflicted over him. The doctors had just left, and left him with this stranger. Alone. What were they thinking? Hey. Natalia's deep voice ripped him from his thoughts, making him more alert than ever. He gazed at the man with a fearful look. He was in an unknown area with an unknown person. His anxiety was spiking, and he didn't know if he could stay strong for much longer. Are you feeling okay? He sounded almost sincere and worried. But whatever Akashi did, he couldn't let his guard down. The man rose from his seat and got a paper cup, filling it with water, and slowly handed it towards him. You're probably thirsty. The setter gave him a wary look. He was parched, yet he wasn't sure if he could trust the water. Koda set it down next to him, giving up on offering it. Look. Keiji turned towards the man. I know right now you're hurt and probably terrified, and you don't know me. He paused, feeling his throat tighten, like he was afraid of verbally admitting the fact. I don't want to push you into anything if you aren't ready, but you are someone dear to me, and you can trust me. I promise you can. I'm not sure how to prove it, but you can. Akashi paused, taking in the state of the latter. According to the nurse, this guy was named Kodo, and he was there when he got attacked. He, along with 2 others, which he couldn't remember the names of, were his partners. If that was the case, what led to the attack? How did someone get past 4 guys? Then again, he didn't know the full story. He couldn't cast him off as a villain yet. At least, not with that look. He looked at Kodo, who had a sorrowful look, and his eyebrows a constant furrow. Kodo, right? Kodo immediately shot up. Yes! Good, he got the name right. Do you remember? Akashi shook his head, just as quickly defeated the teller's mood. The nurse told me your name. Oh. It was silent. She said there was also 2 others. Koda smiled. That would be Bokuto and Kinma. Akashi reached over for a cup of water, feeling a little bit more comfortable. The small action made the rooster happy. Can you... The setter took a small drink from the cup and absent-mindedly fidgeted with the rim of the cup. Can you tell me about you and... He paused, trying to rack his brain for the names he heard not even a minute ago. Bokuto and Kenma. Right. Koda smiled, sympathetically. Well, Kenma is the smallest out of all of us, but that hardly means anything about his personality. He can be super feisty while calm and collected at the same time. It's honestly terrifying. The captain laughed, making the latter smile. And Bokuto, well, he is also omitted here, but he is the rowdiest and loudest one. His carefree spirit makes every dull moment blissful, honestly a treasured moment. They seem like great people, and you? Well, there's nothing special. The sentence made the smaller frown. If he had a partner, surely he would find everything special and genuine. He knew that he wouldn't date just anybody. He would love them, flaws and all. He felt a sharp pain in his head, recalling a memory of Kodo sitting on the porch step. While he couldn't pick out what the captain was saying, he knew it was about his insecurities. The flashback showed how broken he felt and had sent Akashi over the edge, feeling his own heart shatter. Keiji? The smile opened his eyes, seeing Kodo now right by his side, holding his shoulder. What's wrong? He shook his head, pushing that horrid memory aside. If he did have memories of his lover, why was it such a dull moment? Nothing. Kodo quickly backed away, realizing he was invading the latter's personal space, which might have made him uncomfortable. He frowned, also realizing that something was obviously wrong, but that trust that they've built before the accident was no more since he couldn't remember anything, so he couldn't trust him enough to tell him what was wrong. Immediately after the captain settled back into his seat, the door to the room was swung open, revealing 2 other boys. The taller of the 2 had a sling supporting his arm. Regardless, he was the first to show up at his side. The smaller stood back, almost at a loss of words from what was happening and extent of the damage done. Keiji! Quiet, Bo. He's still sensitive to noise. Akashi laughed, seeing what Kodo was talking about him being the loudest. The setter glanced at the sling again. You're hurt. He wasn't necessarily sure why he had this protective need and why he felt discomforted seeing the owl hurt, but he did. It's okay, it doesn't hurt that bad. I'm practically already good to go. Both Kodo and Kema knew he was lying and that he still had about 2 to 3 months of recovery time, but they didn't say anything. You're Bokuto. At least, that is what he guessed from Kodo's descriptions. The owl beamed, seeing that there was some recollection, even if it was just his name. That's right. Do you remember anything else? Kodo had to grab onto his good shoulder to remind him to settle down. No. Seeing his mood take a 180 and oddly enough deflate, Akashi felt as if he disappointed him. Sorry. He found himself fidgeting with the sheets once more and staring at his hands. He tensed, feeling a warm hand cover his own. He raised his head, connecting his own eyes with Bokuto's golden orbs. It's okay, you'll get there. Don't push yourself. Just from what he has heard and seen personally, Bokuto can be out of control at times, so seeing this side was almost familiar and comforting. He glanced back at the blonde in the corner. His eyes were glued to his shoes, and if he did look away, it was everywhere but him. He cursed how his memory was treating him. Those closest to him, that loved him, cared deeply about him, were suffering because he couldn't even remember their names. Kin. He was interrupted by the door of his room opening once more, instead revealed a woman in a white lab coat. How are you feeling, Akashi? He explained how his head still ached, and sometimes he would see flashes of his lovers appear in his mind. All the while, the nurse kept scribbling on her clipboard. Before she smiled warmly. We can up the dosage to help with your head, and we will also keep it overnight, just in case there is any changes. You are always welcome back if your condition worsens. Wait, but he still can't really remember us. Akashi wanted to laugh, seeing that the owl had been holding that in for quite a bit now. Not to worry, those flashes he mentioned prior are a good sign, meaning his mind is healing and his memories will return. I'd recommend immediate family and friends tell him stories just to refresh his mind, but do be careful not to overwhelm him. So he's okay? The raven setter stared at the smaller. It was the first time he had spoken at all since he could remember. Somehow he knew this weak tremble in his voice was not normal, and his instincts were screaming at him, telling him to scoop the setter into his arms and hug his problems away. But his own state of confusion held him back. Don't worry, it seems your partner will recover just fine. Is there a preferred pharmacy to send his prescriptions? Also, who will he be going home with? Kodo stood up and walked over to the nurse, pulling out a few papers. This pharmacy should do fine. He pointed to one of the papers. My mom usually sends mine there, and we have a note from his parents. His head perked up at that. He hadn't even thought about his parents. He is far from home and suffering from amnesia. Surely they should be losing their heads, panicking. He wouldn't be surprised if they were on their way, ready to raise hell. He is spending the break with me. They aren't able to pick him up. Or not. I'll have to make sure that's okay. Can I call them to make sure? Of course. Wait, how old are you, Akashi? She flipped some papers to try to find the answer herself. If you remember correctly, 17. It would be easy if you were an adult, but you're a minor, so we will have to. Both me and Tatsu are 18. That should be fine, right? I will definitely look to see. She smiled, clicking her pen. Alright boys, I'll be back in soon. Just get some rest for now. That includes you, Bokuto. Don't think I haven't noticed. Bokuto laughed nervously, rubbing the nape of his neck. Call for me if you need any help. With that, she made her leave. I should probably make sure Ko actually gets into bed too. What? I'm fine. You're still hurt, Ko. You need to rest too. His eager energy seemed to have diminished before he glanced back at Akashi. It seems I don't have a choice. He wanted to heal quick, so that he could also take care of Akashi if he needed help. He didn't want any of these injuries to burden him, so he had to get better. Quick. Bye, Keiji. The two third years exited the room, leaving Akashi alone in the room with Kenma. The blonde found a seat by the bed, but scooted it back, not wanting to get too close. Ever since the moment they were followed, up until now, Kenma couldn't help but feel a never-ending guilt gnawing at his conscience. You feel okay, right? I know the nurse said you were, but... He reached up and twirled his hair around his index finger, another nervous habit Akashi could vaguely remember. I'm okay, just lost. He was lost because it was all his fault. Kenma wanted to do something, rip his hair out, bite his nails off, just leave the room altogether before he could mess something up anymore. If it weren't for him, both Akashi and Bokuto would be okay. You're blaming yourself. Huh? For the first time, Kenma looked up, meeting the Raven's calm gaze, already easing his tense nerves. I can't really put my finger on it, but you're blaming yourself, aren't you? What do you... I don't remember what exactly happened, but whatever did happen, it wasn't your fault. But it was! Kenma clenched his fist tightly until his knuckles turned snow white. It was my fault! All of it! He squeezed his eyes shut tight to fight the pressure that was building in his eyes. Everything happened so fast, so this was the first time it had begun to settle in. Because of me, you can't remember us. Kotaro got hurt, real bad. He's strong, but I know he's in a lot more pain than he's letting on. Hell, he even got shot at. His words were coming out harsh and almost incoherent from his mixed cries, but regardless, Akashi listened. That man that attacked us, he knew me from my channel. One confused glance from the toddler made Kenma take a step back and explain how he's encouraged to start a YouTube channel, and how he gained many subscribers as well as haters. And how one of those haters was the attacker. After hearing the story, Akashi seemed to remember the attack, and up until the point they were walking home from the corner store. Kenma, tell me, were you the one holding the bat that hit me? Well, no, but... And were you the one holding the gun that shot at Bokuto? Akashi smiled, hesitantly reaching for Kemma's hand that the latter immediately accepted. There you go. You didn't do any of those things, so nothing is your fault. Yeah, the guy might have originally been set out to attack you, but if he did succeed, who knows what might have happened. You could have ended up in a much worse state than me and Bokuto-san. Kenma nodded his head, understanding where his lover was coming from, and even though he didn't want to admit it, Akashi was right, even though he still felt a bit guilty. It was just supposed to be a nice evening at Kuro's house, with all three of his lovers curled up on the couch, watching some corny rom-com that both Tatsuro and Kotaro seemed to thrive on. It just proves that most things don't go as planned. Okay. Akashi smiled once more, this time showing teeth, and chuckled. So you're not allowed to feel responsible for this. But... no buts. Even with amnesia, Kenma knew that he lost his battle from the start. Now, do you mind telling me some stories? It seems I recall it fairly quickly. The blonde sighed in relief that his memories were coming back easily and painless for the most part. The raven took a brave step, taking his hand on the latter's waist, trying to pull him closer, finding both the foreign and familiar presence comforting. Kenma winced, making the latter immediately cower back. What is... It's okay. Kenma gently rubbed aside, trying to ease the throbbing pain. Kenma. He looked up, meeting the setter's stern, blue eyes. He sighed, knowing just how stubborn Keiji was, and how he wasn't going to let this go. Fine. He held up both his Nakama jacket and t-shirt up, revealing nasty purple and blue splotches from before, although this time it was worse. The swelling made his side look significantly bigger, and tiny cuts that he reopened from prior events left dry bloodstains on both his skin and shirt. What is... Akashi recalled them jumping into a dumpster to hide from the man, and heard Kenma gasp. At the time, he just assumed it was from either the amount of blood that he was losing, or the sheer terror of the situation. Not once did he ever think that Kenma got hurt. The dumpster. You got hurt. Please, don't tell the others. The raven paused. What? But... please. They already have enough on their plate. I don't want them to worry about something extra. Something extra. Kenma wasn't something extra. What was he talking about? Looking at him now, the taller was almost scared to say no, like he would shut down, or lose trust if he told someone. He wasn't sure what he should do. While technically he'd known the blonde for years, his mind only told him at least a few days. What should he do? Fine. At least tend to your wounds. They look bad. Kenma slightly nodded, getting up from his chair. I'm going to go do that now. Before he left the room, Akashi grabbed his wrist, preventing him from leaving. Promise that you'll tell someone. I promise. Kenma shrugged off his wrist and left Akashi alone in the room. I am so sorry for the late update. This was supposed to be up about a week ago, but not to worry, my laptop is okay, obviously, and I am back today. Expect a double update. I left the ending to this a kind of ominous, or however you pronounce that, is because with the Poly Prank series, I plan on creating this like a storyline. So this is my channel homepage, and then you go to playlist, and then you go straight to the Poly Prank playlist. It should all be in order. and that is how I'm going to hopefully keep it this way. So do expect more of this coming in the near future. That is all for right now. I hope to see you guys at tonight's premiere featuring As I Lay Here Dying, Daisuga Iwa Oi, Part 1 for the Day 1 of the Fall Marathon. Gosh, that's a tongue twister. Thank you for watching. As always, if you'd like to be kept up to date, check out any of my social medias. I hope that you all have a wonderful day or evening.